When you say cleaned, is there a pollutant or just the odor is being cleared? Okay.
Mm-hmm. But also the pollutant. There are wood spans are inside these containers with water, and bacteria filter out the particles of the air.
Okay.
So that the odor is also away.
Was this part of the original treatment plan,
or
this is a recent?
New. Yes.
Were people in the area concerned about the smell, or?
No. Yes, but it wasn't the smell of our treatment plant, but the smell of an industry company.
Lagerwerke? Meinen Sie die?
Nein, es war Batterienwerk. Und da sind diese Geruchspakete aufgestiegen und in Gössendorf runterkommen.
Okay, it's another company.
It's another company. This was made that always fresh air is inside, and that we could see that we can remove odor out of the air.
We lost more than 20,000 trees, more than 6,000 large trees among them. They're gone forever. It was the sound, the trees, and the river is home of a very famous fish. Stephen will tell you, or told you. Der Huchen, yeah. It's a very large salmon, a very large one.
There's a nice report where it shows how many power plants. There's been power plants built every year in Austria going back, to the turn of the last century. And there were even every single year, not a single year has gone by in the last 100 years where a hydropower plant has not been built in Austria. Most of these, for the international viewpoint, are very small, but even during the war times, there were hydropower plants being built. The amount of building has gone up and down and fluctuated quite a bit, and had gone down, again, connected with environmental interests, but also abundance of energy of other forms. At one point, I believe hydropower supplied Austria with 100% of its electricity needs, and now it's down to like 60-something%, despite the fact that we're building a lot of new hydropower. So obviously, moving out of, say, 1990 or so, there's been a tremendous growth in energy use.
On one hand, there's an advantage that European and North American cities have, that they have separate drinking and wastewater. But on the other hand, the systems are very expensive to renovate and to maintain.
Yeah.
Are these the best technologies that we can think of with our the scientific knowledge we have today? If you had to rebuild Graz, would you have the same technology?
A very good question. I think you have to distinguish. It depends from the precipitation regime in this region. If you, for example, are in Africa with nearly no precipitation, our flashing system, because we are using a flashing system, we need a certain amount of drinking water that we are able to flush our waste to the wastewater treatment plant. And for this you need a certain amount of water. If you have no water or a lack of water, the system will not function, will not work. And when you are in a region with a very strong precipitation regime, you have to secure the prevention against flooding in your cities. And for this, you need pipes, you need diameters. Therefore, for this, there's no way you need a drainage system. And from the pollution point of view, it depends from which surface the stormwater is drained. If you are looking on a highway with thousands of cars going there, the surface is highly polluted. And if you are flushing this directly to rivers, there could also be a ecological problem there. Therefore, we have to always in our cities to secure the citizens against flooding resulting from high stormwater, and for this you need a drainage system.
The critical time was the last election, and many people found their way to demonstrations. We had about 4 big demonstrations, between 2,000 and 4,000 people joining us. But the day after, the morning after the election, they started to kill the trees.
What was that like?
It was horror.
This is also a very important point, that in our waste they are not really dangerous things. The nutrients, we are emitting nitrogen and phosphorus. Both are essential nutrients, and especially the phosphorus. And there are many research projects because we know that the phosphor is limited on the earth. And there are different forecasts, and they are saying maybe in 200 or 300 years, the easily sources of phosphorus which can be collected and gained are at the end. And then our wastewater will be a very important resource because each person is emitting around 2 grams per day of phosphorus. And there are projects which try to restore the phosphor out of the resource.
This is the whole wastewater from the city of Graz.
Okay, this is untreated.
Untreated, around 1 cubic meter per second. These basins are more than 6 meters deep and they are full. 12,500 cubic meters.
Are they full all the time, or just
No.
when it rains?
Just when it rains, and you see it rains a lot. So at every little bit rain they get full. The CSO spill out water.
city of Graz has a so-called combined sewer system, which means that both the wastewater from the households and the stormwater during wet weather conditions are drained in one cross-section, in one pipe system. And 70% of the system is combined. And at the end, until 1974, a wastewater treatment plant is treating all the sewerage for the city of Graz. And due to the installation of the hydropower plant, the water level will be damped up approximately 6 meters at the hydropower plant site. And this means for the drainage system that the connected combined sewer overflows are not able to discharge the stormwater into the river Mur.
I talk about this topic in my ecology classes. So I have all the statistics pretty fresh there. A lot of people think it's just more people everywhere, and most European countries are shrinking in population. You know? But Austria is among the small number of countries that are all affluent countries where there are more immigration magnets. So population is increasing, but Graz just out of proportion to everything else due to the urbanization issue. There's a lot of small towns in the landscape around Graz that are actually shrinking, and there's areas that are becoming very, very desperate economically, and Graz is just booming. And that kind of, you know, it's a, how do you say, it's a feedback type of situation. The more desperate you become in a small town 45 minutes away, the more likely you're going to move to Graz for a job. And that just feeds itself, you know. And my personal opinion is that the government should play a more proactive role in, I don't want to use the word redistributing population growth because that would be popular with nobody, but providing the incentives to companies and whatnot to try to get growth, and, you know, give a company, you know, 20-year tax break to move there, and you know, that's the only way I think to do it. But it's a global trend, as you know, and you know, once it started, you know, people like people. What do people want? They want a job, and they want company, and the culture helps a little bit. So there's simply been very little interest in trying to counter this trend. What the argument is, we can't tell people where they want to live. But Graz is just booming for those reasons.
It is quite funny that we build our cities in a way that where humans live, rainwater becomes a problem. That's funny because that is the first and normally most important fresh water source we have. Water which is pouring down on us. And for our cities, it's a problem which we can only deal with by collecting it in pipes and conveying it out of the city, moving it out of the city as fast as possible. And in a city like Graz, which has a sewer system since quite some time, or where the sewer system grew continuously since quite some time. We even mix really new rainwater with wastewater, and then we have to treat it at the wastewater treatment plant in order to be able to release it into the aquatic environment again. Well, then people say all the surfaces where the rainwater falls are so polluted that you have to treat it anyhow. Which is also funny. I mean, we live in a place which is so dirty that you can't make use of rainwater once it hit the ground. What's that as a living environment? Why can't we keep our places clean enough for rainwater to be nice and healthy and clean? I mean, if rainwater falls on the forest, nobody talks about cleaning it or removing it from the forest. It just infiltrates there, and the trees are happy to make use of it. They evaporate it and cool themselves and feed themselves on the rainwater, and we can't. We have to. Graz is getting potable water from, how much is it? 120 kilometers to the north. Big springs. Well, it's beautiful water. It falls on mountains which are completely untouched and pristine nature. There it disappears in a karstic reservoir, and we pump it out and bring it down to Graz through a long pipe, which falls 700 meters more or less, and even produces electricity. But still, this is a huge infrastructure to bring water into the city, and the rainwater which falls here has to be removed.
You can reduce the situation if you use more and more blue and green infrastructure. And this has to be done to improve the local climate conditions there in the cities, against climate change, if we have warmer summer times and all this. Green-blue infrastructure can reduce these effects. Therefore, they have to be used. But you always need to secure the traffic and all this other infrastructure, you need a drainage system.
If you want to establish green and blue infrastructure, you have to talk to a lot of people. You have to convince many people. You don't have one solution, you have a great amount of solution, and each solution has another player. And this is nothing we are used to handle.